It's time for the weekly sports panel, and I'm joined in studio by Evan Kenny. Evan, it's great to have you here.
Yeah, my pleasure, Jace.
Well, the seasons are changing, and I'm not talking about going from winter into spring. I'm talking about the NHL going from the regular season into the postseason. I'll just go through some of the matchups here in the East. We have Florida taking on Washington, Carolina's taking on Boston. Toronto's going to be going up against Tampa. The New York Rangers are taking on Pittsburgh. And then when we look at the matchups in the West, we have Colorado against Nashville, Calgary versus Dallas, Minnesota versus St. Louis, and Edmonton versus LA. So a lot of matchups there. Take us through them, but I'm going to ask you, first of all, what are the most intriguing matchups for you?
Yeah, Jace, there's a couple that stand out in my mind, sort of for different reasons. Just starting things off, we'll go out east where Toronto and Tampa Bay, as you mentioned, will be playing each other. And Jace, that's just a high-flying offensive matchup. Both these teams were in the top 10 for NHL goal scoring from a team perspective. And as well, you know, obviously there's also that cool story with the Tampa Bay Lightning being two-time defending Stanley Cup champions now. And of course, they take on the Maple Leafs in the first round. Toronto Maple Leafs, it's been sort of an ongoing joke with the team as well, mainly with their fans, I guess. But the Maple Leafs have not made it out of the first round since 2004. So that'll be really interesting just seeing them having to take on, you know, like I said, that two-time defending Cup champion. And I also got one for the West, but very, very different reasoning in the West. I like Minnesota versus St. Louis. I think both these teams match up so well against each other, very, very close in the standings. But it'll be more of an old school type of hockey. Both of these teams, very physical, like to play the cycle game offensively. So if you like playoffs from the late 2000s, then I think that's the matchup for you. But you also get to see a little bit of the skills there with players like Kaprizov or Vladimir Tarasenko.
But we're going to see a little bit of a blast from the past with that matchup. Going through some of these other matchups, can you talk about some two key factors for each team to win their series? Yeah,
Jace, I think first and foremost, if a team wants to win not just the Stanley Cup, but really just one round of playoffs, you have to have phenomenal goaltending. This is a made-up stat, but this is a stat that I got from a coach when I was playing. 90% of the time, the team with the hottest goaltender will pull out the win. Let's take, for example, the two cups from Tampa Bay. Andrei Vasilevsky, 6 shutouts, a 1.9 goals against average, and a .933 save percentage in that time span. I think it speaks for itself that a hot goalie can win you a cup. And secondly, Jace, I think every player needs to execute their role. I know that sounds very self-explanatory, but just give me a second to explain myself and it might make more sense.
All right, let's unpack this.
You know, taking a look at the Tampa Bay Lightning from the last couple of years once again, they got swept in the first round of the playoffs back in 2019. They addressed what was wrong for the team. They needed to get a little tougher and a little bigger. They brought in guys like Pat Maroon, Luke Schenn, Zach Bogosian. You know, these players stuck to their roles and excelled at their roles, and I think it helped push the Lightning past their former plateau. So, you know, often players try to do too much. I think the moral of the story is if each player can stick to their role and really execute, the team's going to see success.
All right, so we're running a little light on time here, so I'm going to get you to answer some rapid-fire questions. So give me an answer, and then you can get into your reasoning a little bit. First of all, who's going to be the top scorer in the first round?
Tough one to say, but it's really hard to bet against Nathan MacKinnon. He's never been below a point per game in the playoffs in his career.
All right, so is any team going to get swept?
Jace, unfortunately, I have one team getting swept. I think Colorado will sweep the Nashville Predators. UC Saros, the starting goalie for Nashville, as of now, will not play due to injury, so I think that will really hurt them.
Now, as an Oilers fan, I'd love to see LA get swept, but moving on to our last question here, what player do you think is going to be most important for any team? Who's going to have an impact?
Well, Jace, I got a guy that you might like here, one of them being Mike Smith. Obviously, we know the Oilers can score goals, but it's going to be defense that they need to step up. And for a very similar reason, I got Alex Barkov from the Florida Panthers. You know, Florida, very high-flying offense. He's sort of that defensive rock for that team. So very same reasoning there.
All right, well, thank you so much, Evan, for taking some time to talk with us today. It was great to be back here in studio, and it's going to be interesting to see how these playoffs continue on.
Yeah, very, very exciting time, Jace.